This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 355 of the Stable Scoop Radio Show, Growing Your Equine Business. Please support our sponsors as they make the show possible. Our sponsors this week are Flirting with the World, EquiSketch, and listeners like you.
This week, we check in with Ellie O'Brien from the hospital in New Zealand after breaking her back in a riding accident. We have Marshall Kelly of TA Guest Ranch in Wyoming, who tells us about this beautiful historical spot. Buck Harris helps us understand the finances of successfully growing your equine business. Plus, Coach Jen stops by for the Tack and Habit segment with her remedy for summer sores.
Welcome to the Stable Scoop, with weekly shows delivered right to you. With Helena and Glenn the Geek, live from the stable, it's every week. They'll bring you the news through hail or high water, while using their tails as their own fly swatters. So sit on down and laugh till you poop, cause it's time again for the Stable Scoop. Stable Scoop. The Stable Scoop. Stable Scoop.
This is Glenn the Geek.
And this is Helena B. And you're listening to the Stable Scoop Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network.
Helena's having internet troubles, so we have to talk fast. We're going to get
really
through the
fast.
whole show in 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
a router issue, apparently, because, you know, the web people company that I use for internet stuff, cable, they want to tell me it's not something that they have to provide.
Of course. Of course, it's something you have to fix, not something they have
So
to fix.
I'll just randomly appear and disappear
Yeah.
in this episode, and let's just blame it on Cox Communications.
You sound good now, so you're good for the next 2 minutes, and then we'll see what
I
happens.
sound good now. Good. Well, I'm fresh off of my Bahamas vacation.
Yes, we haven't had you in a
And-
couple of weeks here.
No, let me tell you, I went a long time, like completely off the grid. Being without cell service or internet service was a very interesting exercise.
Did you start
it was
to
very
break out in
freeing.
hives? Did you shake?
I did.
Did you
I
have a
did.
little bit of withdrawal?
I did, but then you know what? You know what happened?
What, the ocean was there and it was pretty?
The ocean and a nearby liquor store.
That cured
Mr.
those
Bones
withdrawal
Liquors.
symptoms?
It was lovely. It was lovely.
Yeah, you went to like a little island, didn't you?
I went to a little island called Eleuthera, and if you want to see photos and read stories about our adventures there, you must log on to flirtingwiththeworld.com. There will even be a bikini pic or two.
Wait a minute, I missed that. I have to get back there now. I saw the water pictures. Oh my God, how many different colors of blue can you get?
There's 3 up there right now. There will be 4 more shades of blue for you to look at. It's just a stunning, low-key, no-frills kind of island. If you like warm, salty, beautiful water and friendly fish and super friendly people, oh my gosh. Bahamians are incredibly friendly, and not in that contrived, you're a tourist, I want your money kind of way. It is a genuine, laid-back, barefoot kind of friendly.
Huh. I'm looking at, you did an article on flirtingwiththeworld.com. It's called A Different Kind of Fun. And you guys rent like houses or something, or little cottages or something, don't you?
We do. We go through a service called VRBO, which stands for Vacation Rentals by Owner. And it's a worldwide service. It started out as a small little internet company where people who own houses could list them for rent, on vacation properties. And it's way more affordable than going through any of the big resorts. But the downside is you have to cook your own meals and make your own bed.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't really have to deal with 1,000 other American tourists or, sleeping in a hotel room, which is fine. Hotels are fine, but we much prefer feeling like we have a home away from home, and they're very affordable.
Very cool. Very cool. Is the airport about the size of a postage stamp? I mean, you have to fly in on a puddle jumper?
We did not have to. We took an American Eagle flight in, which was, it's one of their smaller jets, but it's still
A jet,
a double engine jet. This is an island that's totally worth it. It's totally worth it. 110 miles long and only 2 miles wide at its widest point. Cliffs to the Caribbean on the west and beautiful beaches, perfect for surfing and body surfing on the east side, right?
Huh.
East, west.
Is there one restaurant? Because I don't like to cook every night.
So along the island, there are little towns, and we stayed in a town called Gregorytown. And there's a lot of small stone houses, and people's homes often double as their businesses. So there are little restaurants, yes. We had wonderful jerk chicken. We had barracuda. We had conch. We had all kinds of grouper, red snapper, all kinds of fish. We even had Buck had rabbit one night that was duck. He had duck this time, which was amazing. So there's two fancy, I don't want to call them resorts, but they're like, it's like it's got these little villas on the water. It's called the Cove, and it's like really fancy, like super exclusive. But their restaurants open for dinner. So we went there, and it was nice. it was really nice. So you can go upscale if you want to, but there's like one or two places. Everything else is pretty much low key, barefoot. You eat what the locals are making, and it's good. Their food is fresh and delicious.
So what was the name of this town or island again?
Eleuthera.
Eleuthera.
Yeah, in the Bahamas. And it's a direct flight from Miami. So you can fly from anywhere to Miami, and it's 45 minutes from Miami to Eleuthera. It goes direct.
Very good. Well, I'm glad you had fun. We missed you, but I'm glad you had fun.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we better get on with the show today. One, before your internet comes out again. And two, we have a ton of guests coming up. So let's get started right after this commercial from EquiSketch. Let's get started with, I had a chance late last night because we had to coordinate it with New Zealand time to talk to Ellie O'Brien, who, as most of our listeners on Facebook know, about 15 days ago, she fell off a horse and broke her back, and she broke her L3 in several places, and she's going to tell us about that. And she's in recovery now, still in the hospital, and wearing this really cool Star Wars type brace. Let's get caught up with her and see how she's doing and what's going to be in store for her in the future. Glenn the Geek here. The life of horse person is hard enough, and we all hate doing the required paperwork, and unfortunately many of us never get around to it, and it just piles up on our desk. That is about to change thanks to the EquiSketch Records app for your iPhone or iPad. My wife and I use it to track our horses, and we absolutely love this thing. EquiSketch Records is the most thorough and complete equestrian records app on the market today. We love this app because you can track your farrier work, your dental, your coggins, medicines, worming, and so much more. And you can get reminders on your device when all of these things are due. You'll never forget a worming or shots or farrier visit again. But it not only tracks your horse, you can also manage your horse shows, including individual events. You can manage riders, including lessons and memberships, and so much more. And you can sync it between your iPhone and your iPad, and all of this for the price of a couple of cups of coffee from Starbucks. Search for EquiSketch Records in the iOS App Store or go to EquiSketch.com. That's EquiSketch.com. EquiSketch.com. Well, if you've been following Facebook and the show, over the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about the fact that Ellie O'Brien, who does our training tips with us once a month, had the unfortunate mishap of becoming unlodged from her horse and hitting the ground rather hard at a wrong angle. We're going to have to send her to stunt school soon so that she can learn to fall better. But she broke her back and in her L3 in several places, had to have surgery, and she's recuperating now. It's been about 15 days since she fell off, and we wanted to get her on the line so that all her fans could hear her voice and that she could let everybody know that she's still around and doing okay. How are you, Ellie?
Hi, Gwen. Thank you so much for having me on. And I'm doing really well. Keeping a positive mind and attitude towards everything. And I can see that that's paying off because I seem to be coming along in leaps and bounds.
Yeah, when I saw the X-ray of your back, and when you saw the X-ray of your back, I'm sure that you were as shocked as everybody else was. The L3 is the third vertebrae down from the top, right?
From the bottom.
From the bottom, okay, and it
Yep,
was broken
bottom.
many pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep, I was really, really lucky because part of it had floated in towards, and it was pressing against my spinal canal.
Oof.
So I said that I was very, very lucky that I'm still able to walk. I've got a little bit less feeling and strength in my right leg, but boy, I'm just so thankful that I can still walk and I'll be able to return to riding and running and doing all of those things that we can sometimes take for granted.
Well, I got to tell you, I really like your Star Wars brace. You look like a stormtrooper or something, like you should be in the Star Wars movie. I'm just saying.
I know. I think it's pretty cool too. I think I could use it for like a dress up later on or something.
I think you could. It probably helps a lot too. It's very high tech.
It is. They said it's actually one of the latest ones out. So it's quite comfortable. It fits well to your body, and I feel a lot safer when I'm in it because I know that I'm not going to twist it in the wrong way or do something that I could potentially injure myself.
Well, years ago, they used to be shaped like a big corset. That's basically what they looked like, was this big corset, and they were cumbersome and ugly and everything. Yours is just cool.
Yeah, my mum keeps calling me RoboCop.
Yeah, that's kind of what it looks like.
Yeah.
Give you a laser gun, you're gonna be deadly there at the rehab.
Now, I know.
Now you're at rehab now. You've left the hospital, right?
Still at the hospital, but just
Okay.
in a different ward. Yeah, so
Okay.
I'm in rehab and the elderly services. So I'm about 40 years younger than everybody else in here, but it's cool. I'm having some fun.
You're the youngster of the group.
I am.
Well, now you actually went to a different hospital to get the surgery that was further from home. You're back close to home again, right?
Yeah. They took me about 2 hours away to a specialty hospital to have the operation done, and I spent about 9 days there, and then I was transferred back to Rotorua, which is my hometown, and back in our hometown hospital to recover.
Well, I got to say hello to your dad because he actually contacted me like the day after to make sure we knew what was going on, and has been keeping in touch. We've been conversing by Facebook ever since then, and he's been great about, because I haven't wanted to bug you, he's been great about keeping us up to date on what's happening and how you're doing. So I wanted to say hi to him and thank him for that.
Oh, that's just fantastic. I am so thankful for my parents' support and everybody else who has sent me hundreds and hundreds of messages. And I've just, as much as I've wanted to reply, I will get about a line or so into it, and then there's something about the screen of my phone that just makes me like zonk out, and I'll be asleep. And I will have sent this message that makes no sense.
I got one of those, actually.
I'm sorry.
It was like
about
half
that.
a sentence and it went away. I figured it was the
That's
drugs,
my
Ellie. I
fault.
figured it was those good drugs you're on.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Now,
Oh, boy.
this had to have been extremely, extremely painful. Is that getting better?
Yeah, it was. I've had a few really decent falls, and this one was definitely the most painful of the lot. And but I was just so thankful. Like after I came off, my sweet boy, he's a 4-year-old stallion, and he ran around in a circle.
Is this
and
the
then he
black
came
one?
back to me. Yeah, this is my Frisian.
Oh, yeah, we
Mhm.
talked about him last time you were on the show.
Yeah, that's right. So, and it was just so unfortunate, just a complete accident. And but he was just so sweet. He stood over me. He came back around and he stood over top of me, for about 40 minutes while we waited for the paramedics to arrive.
Now, was anybody else there, or were you alone?
I was alone, so I was so thankful
you had
that
your
I
phone?
had I always ride with my phone, and it's been interesting. People have said to me since my fall that they don't ride with their phones, and they're like, we're definitely going to start riding with our phones now.
You know, that's an important lesson, because we keep saying this over and over again on the shows. A lot of people attach the phone to their saddle, which is the wrong thing to do. It needs to be on you.
Oh, yeah, definitely. You want to have that.
Because you would have been stuck. Had it been on the saddle.
Move.
Yeah.
Yep. So I was so thankful that I had that on me, and it was a lifesaver, literally.
Yeah, literally. Well, you sound great. You sound like the old Ellie.
She's not gone anywhere.
We have paid for you to go to stuntman school in Hollywood when you're ready. Okay, so you learn to fall better. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we need to duck and roll. We need to learn that a little bit more. You know, I'm just kidding around with you.
I was actually looking forward to that trip to Hollywood.
We actually know a bunch of stuntmen too from the shows for over the years, so we could probably get that arranged.
Yeah.
I think you're going to have to wait a few months, though.
I think so. Mm-hmm.
Ducking and rolling right now is not on the list.
No, definitely not. But I think that might be a good plan for before I get back on again anyway.
Well, your father and I have already had the conversation, because I'm like your big brother. Your father and I have already had the conversation that you're going to want to ride too soon, and we're going to have to handcuff you to the house. So
yeah, I think that could be, or hide my saddles or something at least.
Yeah, we're going to have to do something, because, you're going to want to get on too soon, and we all know that's going to happen, because you're a horse girl.
Yeah, I think we all have that problem, don't we?
Yes, we do. Well, I got to tell you, you're sitting in a much better shape than 2 weeks ago if we would have had this conversation. So good for you, and good for keeping the positive attitude. And your daughter looks like she's being a mama hen.
Oh, she is. She has just been such a wee honey, and she loves to take care of me. And it's been it's been an amazing experience. I mean, although it hasn't been great, I wouldn't wish it upon
Except
anyone.
Except for the pain and the broken back part.
yeah, that's right. But there's been so many life lessons from this, and it's brought us all a lot closer together as well.
Well, your daughter does look like she's been there with you every minute, and I'm sure it's been tough on her to see mom hurting, too. That can't be easy. She's 4 years old, right?
She's 7 now.
7,
yep.
Okay.
And, so it has been very tough, and but she's just so amazing. She holds it together while she's around me, and she's had some little cries when she goes home with Nana and Granddad, but all in all, I'm so proud.
Yeah, she's a cutie. You're lucky. You're lucky to have her.
Yeah.
Well, Ellie, I'm not going to hold you up. Thank you so much for allowing us to chat with you and allowing everybody to hear your voice. You sound like you're still positive and doing well that way, and we're so glad to hear that.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me on.
And keep that Star Wars outfit. That's going to come in handy later.
Oh, boy, yeah. I'm definitely keeping this one.
Thank you, Ellie.
Thanks,
Take care. Well, coming up next, we have Marshall Kelly, who is from TA Guest Ranch, and that is in beautiful Wyoming. And we're going to hear all about that. It's a very historical place, and you might have seen a movie or two that used this guest ranch as well. Well, hi, Marshall. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming on. I saw a post on Facebook, and I saw you driving some Percherons, and I said, well, I got to talk to her. And then I saw the TA Guest Ranch, and I'd never heard of it, and I love talking about ranches. And then I saw that the TA Guest Ranch was part of history that here in the United States, and also I have seen the movie The Virginian, so it all sort of tied together. I was like, I got to have her on.
Well, yeah, that's cool.
Well, now tell us a little bit about you. Have you been a horse girl forever? What's the story?
Well, I was one of these little girls that always wanted to be around horses, but never had the opportunity. I say never. Didn't have much opportunity to be around them. And my earliest recollection of just really loving horses was when I sat on a horse bareback, and that was so thrilling to me. So in my childhood logic, I saved my jeans. I hid them under the bed so that I could smell them, and because that was the closest.
You were addicted from a young age.
Yes, yeah. I probably forgot about them, and my mom found them years later. I was like, what in the world? But anyway, but yeah, I just was one of these that was just born loving horses, and then I rode any and every chance I got, and my family moved from Louisiana to Wyoming, and I was absolutely in heaven. My parents were friends with some ranchers, and so we were able to ride their horses in the hayfields and even participate in some cattle drives and things like that. So I was pretty happy with our move out here, and I just have really loved horses, and I got my first horse when I was 17, my very own horse. And I realized that I didn't know a whole lot when I got a 2-year-old. I thought I could train.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, I literally sat on her back, and I thought, what do I do now? So I had a friend who came from California. She had been studying under a German man. She had some very high hopes of going to the Olympics someday, so she was very serious, and she said, I'll give you 10 free lessons. So the weird part about the whole thing was that we didn't work on my horse. We worked on me. And that's when I realized that I didn't know as much as I thought I did, and that I was not content to just be a passenger. I wanted to learn how to ride, and I just wanted to learn all I could about horses. So that's what started that. And then because I switched over to the English way of riding, and we had moved to Powell, Wyoming, and they have a driving club over there. And there was a bulletin because there was an equestrian college there, and they had a 6 or 7 week driving course available through the college. And I thought, well, that's really interesting, because we lived where there was a lot of dirt roads, and I had an arena right behind me where we were renting. So I just thought that out. I had some help with what harness to get. I had a cart to use, so I trained my mare, and that was when I was really hooked on the driving as well.
Well, and that kind of leads us up to today, and I think you just recently started as one of the drivers of the Percherons at the TA Guest Ranch, right?
Yes, I did.
And I saw that picture, and Percherons are my favorite breed. I love Percherons. I don't own one right now, but I've owned several in the past, and I just love Percherons. They're the sweetest, kindest horses, and the fans all know that, because we went to the Percheron Congress last year and hung out for a couple days. It was just a lot of fun. So the TA Guest Ranch is 13 miles south of the town of Buffalo, Wyoming, and it from the pictures I saw on the website, it is absolutely beautiful.
Yes, and especially this year. I mean, it's just so lush and green. It's not that way every year, but Wyoming is beautiful in all its stages, and of course, when it is green like this, we especially love it because it's great for the pastures and the cows and the horses and the sheep. Everybody gets a lot of hay, and everybody's happy.
I saw you posting too on your Facebook page some dramatic cloud photos that you have taken, and that have been, you've gotten you get some dramatic skies there. It's incredible, and of course you have the hills there and everything. So it's a pretty neat area, and it's steeped in history. Tell us about the TA Guest Ranch.
Well, the TA Ranch dates back to the latter 1800s. And it's a really beautiful spot. It's on the, let's see, it's on the opposite side of the foothills, so it's got quite a view. And there's it's real hilly, so it sits out amongst this openness, and then when you get down below, there's these beautiful, huge cottonwood trees, and the setting is just it's very beautiful country out here. There's no doubt. Crazy Woman Creek runs right through it.
Crazy Woman Creek.
And, yes. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some stories on how that got its name too. But anyway, they are a working cattle ranch and a guest ranch. They hold some weddings there. They have some cabins, some original cabins that have been updated, and then of course they've got the original barn where the shootout or the standoff occurred in 1892, and then they have bus tours that come. I think it's 5 days a week. They on the route from Rapid City to Jackson, and the TA is one of their stops. And then people can participate in riding on the wagon, or they can ride horses, or they can watch some round pin demonstrations, or do all three. So there's a lot to do when the bus comes, and they have a chef, they have wonderful food, and they serve us lunch every day before we go out, and we always look forward to that because it's very good.
So now, do you drive the wagon with the Percherons, and what are their names, by the way?
They are geldings named Star and Dancing Bear.
Okay.
And I just shortened it to Bear, you know.
Yeah. Star and Bear, that's a good names for Percherons. And so you take them out around, you take them on rides around the farm to kind of see the whole place?
Yeah, that's what we do.
Okay.
Yeah, anybody from the bus tour that wants to hop on, it holds 8 people, and so we just wait to fill it up, and then we just go for some tours around on the ranch.
This ranch is known, and the barns you talked about there is known for what it's known for in history books is the Johnson County Range War. And some people might know what that is and some might not. But can you give us just a brief explanation, kind of the Reader's Digest version?
Well, yes. It was a war that was between the large cattle ranchers and the small ranchers. And there was some drop in prices. There was very disastrous winter. There was overrange stock. So it forced a lot of the cowboys to become homesteaders and to maintain small herds. So at that time in history, it was open range. Well, to just kind of fast forward, the large ranchers were wanting to do away with what they were saying was a lot of cattle rustling going on. And they actually came to the TA ranch. They were known as the invaders. And they were actually coming to Buffalo because they had a death list of individuals. And
a hit list,
Yeah, and some say it was either from like 19 to 70, according to different accounts. And they were going to, take care of business. And so they got word that there was a posse of about 200 men coming from Buffalo. So they holed up in the TA ranch barn, and then they were surrounded, and it was a couple of days. So it's pretty amazing to stand in that barn and see the bullet holes, and actually to see the carved out board that they used, to put their rifles through there. And
Yeah, it is something. I mean, so basically, what happened was you had the large ranch holders, the cattle barons, had hired all these people to go out and make a lesson of some of the smaller cattle ranchers who were just trying to all fight for the same grass, pretty much, to graze on. And once they killed one or two, the smaller cattle ranchers all got together with the local county sheriffs and stuff and formed their own posse. There were a couple hundred of them surrounded the barns, and there was a shootout for days until the president stepped in.
Yes, Benjamin Harrison ordered the troops to intervene, and it said that the charges were brought against many of those who participated in the invasion, but in the end, none of the invaders of the Johnson County War were convicted.
No, the cattle baron people, basically hired guns. They brought them back. I remember this story. They brought them back to the fort, and they were supposed to be under arrest. The ones they took out of the barn that were left, and they were supposed to be under arrest, and they weren't really under arrest. And then they eventually just all disappeared. They all let them go. Just went.
Yeah. It could have been a pretty nasty thing here in Buffalo, but there was some lives lost on both sides, and
well, there was hard feelings. You talk about the Hatfields and McCoys there in West Virginia. There were hard feelings here, and there were shootings and murders that all stemmed from this for years after. Yeah,
that's what I understood that happened out here too.
Yeah, and that's the same. That it was the same out where you were. They were just, if they saw somebody that was one of the hired hitmen, they took them out, or vice versa. And it was just hard feelings for many years, decades.
Yeah. Yeah, and that barn is very cool. I mean, the wood planks are just really worn. You walk those big horses in there, and in those days, the wood was just so huge, just so hefty. So it's really withstood all of the horses in and out, and the thresholds are no longer square. They're all rounded off from the horses' feet going in and out of the barn. It just reeks with history. I mean, there's carvings, people's names carved. People have written on the boards. You see writing from 1926. And they have left all of that intact.
Well, isn't the cookhouse where they actually do the cooking? Wasn't that the original cookhouse from like the late 1800s?
Yes. There's an ice house, and
well, that's very cool.
there's some cabins, and yeah, it's a beautiful setting down there. There's no doubt.
I want to get there someday. I think that would be fun. I have never been to Wyoming, and that's that's on my bucket list. So.
Oh, you're gonna have to come. Wyoming it's an amazing place. There's only 470,000 people in the whole state, so there's a lot of BLM and state land. So when we go ride, it's basically out here. It's like, okay, which direction do you want to go? So when I hop on my horse and go ride on some of the state land, I just kind of pretend like I own it all,
You can ride forever. I mean, you could ride for days.
Oh, yeah, you can. Yeah.
Well, that's
and especially this year, it's just dropped dead gorgeous out here.
Well, it is. The website, if you want to check it out, is taranch.com, taranch.com. If you're heading out to Wyoming and need a place to stay and want to stay in a place that has oodles of history and unbelievable scenery, then check it out. Glenn the Geek here. The life of horse person is hard enough, and we all hate doing the required paperwork, and unfortunately many of us never get around to it, and it just piles up on our desk. That is about to change thanks to the EquiSketch Records app for your iPhone or iPad. My wife and I use it to track our horses, and we absolutely love this thing. EquiSketch Records is the most thorough and complete equestrian records app on the market today. We love this app because you can track your farrier work, your dental, your coggins, medicines, worming, and so much more. And you can get reminders on your device when all of these things are due. You'll never forget a worming or shots or farrier visit again. But it not only tracks your horse, you can also manage your horse shows, including individual events. You can manage riders, including lessons and memberships, and so much more. And you can sync it between your iPhone and your iPad, and all of this for the price of a couple of cups of coffee from Starbucks. Search for EquiSketch Records in the iOS App Store or go to equisketch.com. That's EQUISKETCH.com. equisketch.com.
Next up, we're going to talk about growing your small equine business, or growing your equine small business, or just growing your equine business. It could be big, for goodness sakes. We have Buck Harris, who is the Vice President and Manager of Community Lending at Community Investment Corporation. That is a company that lends money to businesses like yours, small businesses. And the money actually comes from the United States Small Business Administration. So the funding comes from the feds, yahoo! And Buck is an expert in both business planning, business modeling, finance, and of course, lending. And he's going to talk to us about what kinds of things you want to think about when you are planning on improving your farm, whether that means putting up an indoor arena, repairing fencing, buying large equipment like tractors, or even making an investment in sales and marketing to attract more clients. So we're going to hear from Buck. Welcome back, Buck, to the Stable Scoop Radio Show. We're happy to have you on today.
Thank you. It's good to be here again.
So we're going to talk about the small or not so small equestrian business owner. It's typically a boarding stable. It could be a racing stable. It could be a veterinary practice. But it's the equestrian farm owner who made it through this winter. Didn't matter where you were in the United States. It was a tough winter. Made it through this winter and is now starting to think about either growing their business or making repairs, things that happened over the winter. I know we had a lot of roofs that caved in and wear and tear on these farms. So I'm a equestrian business owner. I'm thinking about making some kind of improvement to my farm, some kind of investment. What's the first thing that I need to consider when let's say I'm walking out of my farm and I'm like, you know what? I really need an indoor arena. I cannot survive another winter without an indoor. What's the first thing I need to do?
Well, the first thing you should think about is, will there be a return on my investment? So if I'm going to put up an indoor arena, it should be an investment in my business, and it should produce cash to pay for itself and to put some money in my pocket for all the hard work of building it, maintaining it, and making it available to people. So return on investment is pretty much the first thing that I think any business should think about when they're looking at doing some kind of improvements.
Okay, so they can't just spend the money on it because they want it. It has to pay them back in some way.
Right. I mean, great to spend money on things you want if you have deep pockets and you can just go, it'd be really nice to put up all new fencing. But if your fencing is keeping the horses in and it looks good, but you'd rather have a different kind, it probably doesn't make sense to make that investment.
Well, and I guess it depends on whether what you just said, the deep pockets, and somebody who's doing it for just for their own benefit and have the money to do it, or it's a completely different story, I guess, if you're trying to borrow the money in some way.
It really is. And if you're going to borrow the money, you either have to show that you've already got the revenues to the spare cash, as it were, from your revenues to pay back the loan, in which case you really don't even need much of a written plan to borrow the money. Most banks or alternative lenders like Community Investment Corp will be more than happy to look at your historical cash flow and go, sure, you can afford a $50,000 loan. It's right. You can just keep doing what you're doing. But lots of times, in the event of, let's say, a big investment like an indoor ring, that might be a $200,000 bill or a $150,000 bill, and the payments will be $3,000 or $4,000 a month. You really will need to show that this is what the indoor ring is going to do for you. So how many additional lessons can I do, because I can do lessons over the summer? What can I charge for each lesson? What's the cost of an instructor? Am I going to do it myself? And, how is that going to net out in some kind of cash flow that's going to make sense to both the bank and to my pocket? Because ultimately we all need to get paid for our trouble at the end of the day. At least that's in theory. That's the way it should work.
That's the hard part, I think, for most farm owners. They understand that by making this investment in their business, it's going to attract more business. It's going to grow their business. It's going to gain more customers. But putting that down on paper, showing how that is going to happen, seems to be a big obstacle. You can sit down at the end of the day. I mean, if your brain isn't fried from riding 10 horses, and you have to sit down with a spreadsheet, don't you? And actually say, this is how much I make now. This is, how many lessons I can teach. This is how many new clients I think I'm going to get because I have an indoor arena. Is there any help for somebody in that kind of planning, or do they need to just put those numbers down and then go to a bank or go to an alternative lender and say, here's what I have? Is there support for them in these endeavors?
There is help. Every state in the U.S. has actually, I believe, 2 different free opportunities, at least 2. One is, and they're both funded by the Small Business Administration. One is called SCORE, SCORE, and that is the group of, it was originally retired executives who volunteer their services to provide free consulting support to small business owners or small business owner wannabes. So if you had a horse business and were looking for help, you could go to SCORE. With any luck at all, they'd have someone who's familiar with the business. Sometimes they don't. The horse business.
We tried that actually when we had our big boarding stable, and it was they don't was what it
okay.
was there. Yeah, we didn't have much luck there.
Well, and that's hit or miss too, because in Connecticut they might, in New York they might not. It just depends, because there's probably 12 SCORE chapters in Connecticut alone, and those people kind of come and go. So you might hit it right. There's also the Small Business Development Centers, or SBDC. We live in a world of acronyms. They can be very helpful, and again, it's a hit or miss moment. And there are also WBDCs, which are Women's Business Development Centers, and there's one of those in Connecticut, and they're, again, you might hit it right. If you get a good counselor, a business model is a business model is a business model at the end of the day. They may not know the horse business very well, and they'll have to depend on your good common sense around the assumptions that you create. If you're going to put up a barn with stalls and lease them out, they're not going to know about shavings and hay, but the business owner darn well ought to know what it costs to feed a horse and keep shavings in the stall, for a month. So, but as far as actually creating a plan, they'll have spreadsheets and whatnot that you can kind of massage or plug and play a little bit, and in that way you'll be able to look at the full picture. And so that can be really helpful. And I think that the biggest problem I see is that when people go for help, they don't have any history. They haven't done their due diligence on the front end. They haven't kept QuickBooks up to date or kept spreadsheets with all of their costs and their income. And so then it's really hard to build a plan because you don't have anything to work from. It's all kind of in someone's head. And that's a dangerous place to keep information if you're me.
Or me. So if
you never know how that's going to be twisted around in there, right?
Yeah. So let's say I want to buy. I have an indoor arena. I have a farm. Things are going great, but I think I could save money if I start managing my own manure, or I start managing my own on-farm construction projects, and I want to make an investment in, say, a backhoe or some kind of large tractor. Is the process different than, let's say, approaching a lender for a real estate purchase or some smaller loan? What about equipment? How does that work?
Well, I think the best bet for any equipment purchase is actually finance it through whomever you're buying the equipment from. Typically, they have lots of different avenues, and it's quick and easy. The equipment is collateralized because it is what it is. It's like buying a used car. You walk in, you can, no matter what your credit looks like, you might have a high rate, but you can walk off the lot with a car in like a day. And used equipment is the same way, or new equipment. Either way, you're going to you're going to get quick financing and probably a pretty darn good deal if you do it that way.
When you say
because
it's
the risk is
collateral,
very small.
when you say it's collateralized, it means that the lender can take that piece of equipment if you don't pay for it. They can repossess it.
Exactly. If I'm loaning you money for marketing and it doesn't work out, I don't want your brochures. They're not worth anything to me, or your website. So when you're loaning money for a hard asset like a backhoe or a tractor, if it doesn't work out, I just come with my hook and take it back. And at least I've recovered most of my risk. But if I'm loaning money for things that aren't assets, then the plan becomes paramount and the risk is a lot higher for the lender. And this is where banks often, depending on what the balance sheet of that business looks like, a bank will often not be as interested in financing that stuff. And that's why there are alternative lenders out there that are driven by the SBA or by other nonprofit sources, even the USDA, to help small businesses get the cash that they need to grow.
So, Buck, now I have a question for you. You see a lot of loan applicants that come in there, and you're not a bank. You're a different form of lending operation, but you require a lot of the same things. What's the thing that you see that people fall down on the most as far as their tracking, their record keeping? Do you know what I'm asking?
I sure do.
By the way, it'll be the same thing that I would fall down on, so go ahead.
Yeah, well, it's a struggle for everybody. It's a complex world out there, and when you're trying to run a business, sometimes the last thing you want to do is put a pen to paper and keep track of your expenses and your income in a real way. But I think that one of the big mistakes people make is they pocket money. So, there's this temptation out there to not record all of your income.
And we're in a business where doing lessons and stuff, it's easy to do. And you do look at it kind of as free money, right?
It does feel that way. Yep, I got a pocket full of cash. Life is good. But then when I want that new fence or I want to put up that annex on my barn or buy that tractor, I'm not showing any income. So on the one hand, I see people that I know they're running successful businesses, but they show so little income because they're saving money on their taxes by not reporting it that I can't get them a loan. So my take on it is always charge enough so that you can pay your taxes and then you can grow your business. And if you don't pay your taxes, you really can't grow your business because no bank or alternative lender is going to want to do business with you. And that's just the way it is. And everybody knows that you're going to put some cash in your pocket. I mean, I had a food business for years. I'd take home a gallon of milk when I needed it. That's just the way it is. But the less of that you can do and the more you can actually keep a sharp pencil to your finances, the better you're going to be able to manage those finances, and paying your taxes will come real easy. So I think that that's kind of the biggest thing that I see.
And I can see that because, we had the same problem too. When we had our big farm, we had about 25 horses there and doing training and stuff. And some people pay you cash. And of course, of course I reported every penny of that. But when you got down to, when you got down to needing a loan or trying to do something like that, it was a problem. I mean, it was a serious problem because your income was showing, it was great at tax time, not so good when you needed to get a mortgage.
Yeah, and it's really, being short-sighted at the end of the day. You know what? Fences wear out. Barns need new roofs. Horses need to be replaced. And so if you don't have a strong profit and loss statement at the end of the day because you've got money stashed or you're just spending money, that's coming in and not reporting it, it just never serves the small business owner in the long run. It's just a bad idea. The other thing that I see is...
but that's hard. That is so hard, Buck.
Well, discipline. It's all about...
I know.
As I would say to Helena, it's all about learning to keep the horse in the bridle.
But we're horse people, and horse people have a tough time with that. Just saying.
I know. But think of it in terms of keeping the horse in the bridle. When the horse is in the bridle, life is good. So if you think of your own finances the same way, the other mistake people make is they put things on charge cards, and they'll come to us with a bunch of charge card debt and say, geez, I got a little carried away. I'm up to, $30,000 on charge card debt. It's not hard to do these days. It's easy to get that much credit. Can I refinance that? Nobody wants to refinance charge card debt anymore. So
is that right? That used to be a big thing. They used to love to do that, but
no, nobody wants to play that game anymore. Ever since the economy tanked and people got burned, nobody wants to refinance charge card debt.
Yeah, because you go and refinance it. Your company goes and refinances my $30,000 in credit card debt. Guess what I do? I run up another $30,000 in credit card debt.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So now I got your loan
right.
and my $30,000 in credit card debt.
And, one late payment on a credit card and your rate's 29%. So this is what I see a lot of is, absolutely good intentioned small business owners who don't borrow appropriately when they can. So my motto is borrow when you don't need it. Look ahead. Banks and nonprofit lenders love it when you walk in and say, I've got a plan for it's May. I've got a plan for January, and I want to start looking at my financing alternatives. And instead of someone saying, gee, let's just get that done and put it on a charge card. So this way, you've done your homework. There's lots of different ways to borrow money. There's a lot of different rates and amortization. You can get a 5-year, a 10-year, a 20-year loan, and all of that affects your cash flow at the end of the day. So if you're planning and you're thinking it through, you can get your best deal. You can structure your loan appropriately, and at the end of the day, you'll just be you'll sleep a lot better without question.
And I love that quote: "Borrow money when you don't need it." And I've heard that so many times. People complaining, and you've heard it a million times. People complaining, well, when I need the money is when I want to borrow it. If I don't need it, I don't want to borrow it. So,
if let's say you wanted to start a barn and you had $50,000 saved, and you spent that money to get your barn up and running, and then it didn't take off the way you thought it would. You come to us for a loan, we can't help you. You've got nothing, the thing didn't take off. It's a big risk for us. If you come to us with $50,000 in the bank and say, I need another 50, I'm pretty much getting my checkbook out. So that's really the way it works. You're a much stronger borrower, a much lower risk when you're sitting there with the cash in your pocket, and you've got a plan. So it really boils down to that. Planning is really critical for bankers and alternative lenders. We love a good plan.
Very good. And so the moral of the story today is borrow when you don't need it, have your business plan right, and deposit those cash payments.
Absolutely. Yeah. Create a strong balance sheet. It's a fun thing to do, to look at your profit and loss statement every month and say, hey, we made money every month this year, and then try to beat those numbers next year. That's how you grow a business.
You just described 1% of the horse people. They made money this year.
Well, it's probably 1% of the whole economy, but it's true. Another good slogan is, if you don't measure it, you can't grow it. So it's best to really measure your, how was February last year, and what's it going to look like next year, and what are we going to do differently, so we have a plan. And that's just
and that's hard. I know it's hard. I'm a horse person too, so it's hard. We like to ride.
You're letting them all off the hook. It's not that hard.
Well, it is hard because I've been there, and but you're right. You have to force yourself to do it. I mean, that's just because it's hard doesn't mean you don't do it.
Well, with it, like anything, if you cut hair or you ride horses, you have a passion, and typically keeping records is not your passion.
Yeah, and cooks are the same way, right? Restaurant owners the same way. Food truck people would rather cook than do books. So, or cook the books, as KCB. but there's something to be said for outsourcing that, hiring a bookkeeper. That's not an expensive proposition, and it's something that I think would serve every small business owner. And by the way, the biggest mistake we made in the 2 businesses we had before this one was not having a bookkeeper. We had it. We were doing it internally, and that is the biggest mistake we made. We would have hired that out.
Yeah, every good bookkeeper will pay for themselves a couple times over. So,
and you're right. It's not in the relatively speaking, it's not that expensive. Matter of fact, there's online services now. There's really cool online services now that will do it for you that aren't that are legitimate resources that are not expensive at all.
No, like 80. I've got a group that's $80 a month now.
Yeah.
It's on the cloud. You don't even have to have the server capacity or anything.
Get the name of it. What's the name of that? Because people ask me.
Well, Julie Muncaster is the owner of the business. You think I'm going to be able to remember the name of it?
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember the name of the one I dealt with too. That was $100 a month, and they do your books for a pretty good sized small business. It was online. I can't remember it now.
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them out there.
And most of them use, and you probably, if you use QuickBooks or you use Quicken or whatever, most of them end up are using the same thing, so they can just they can just take the books you already have, and use the same thing. They're just doing it. They're doing it right. That's
exactly.
And what's your website, by the way? What is the website for your business?
It's CIC, as in Community Investment Corporation, CIClending.com. And there's lots of good business planning tools on there. So feel free to hop on and check it out.
CIClending.com. Thanks, Buck. Well, Helena, we are only 2 months away from getting to see you at the Ada again up in there in Philadelphia.
I cannot wait. It's a fun time at Ada, and it's a super fun time because...
And I like the summer one much better. There's no snow, no blizzards.
No kidding.
No 0 degrees.
I know.
It's much better going up there in the summertime.
I know.
Even
though we're all looking at like winter apparel because,
that's right.
Believe it or not, the equestrian industry is kind of like the fashion industry. All the winter stuff gets showcased in the summer so that we can, place our orders and have everything in stock for you by the time Christmas comes.
And it's always fun too because they always have the Christmas gifts out too. So that'll be fun to. That's always one of my favorite ones is the August show because of the Christmas gifts.
I know that's the fun one for like the cash and carry.
Yes, it is fun for cash and carry. We're looking forward to that. So anyway, everybody, we're going to wrap it up here before Helena's internet dies again. You can find our app. It's the best way to listen to our show here at Stable Scoop. Just search for Horse Radio Network in the iOS or Android App Store, and you'll find it's free, it's easy, it's the simplest way to listen to Stable Scoop and all the other 8 shows on the network. And also, you can go to stablescoop.com to find all the past episodes that we've been doing here for the last 7 years. And Helena can be found at...
You can find me at flirtingwiththeworld.com. There's a link. You can send me messages, ask questions. You can even post your own stories at flirtingwiththeworld.com.
And I just looked. I don't see any bikini pictures.
You're going to have to check back.
Okay. All right, everybody. Keep checking back. Because that'll be the first time she's ever done that.
Yeah. No kidding. It's a reality moment, let me tell you.
And many thanks to our sponsors. We appreciate them being on board. Well, Helena, let's just call it quits. That's it for today.
Oh, that is plenty, but there will be more next week. Until then, happy scooping.